My name is Haley Morgan, and I was 32 years old when a 30-second audio file took a sledgehammer to the life I thought I was building. If you'd seen us from the outside, you would have thought we were one of those annoyingly stable couples. I had a good job in project management at a tech company, a small house with a mortgage in my name, a decent retirement account, and a boyfriend, Ryan Blake, 30, who looked at me like I'd hung the moon. At least, that's what I used to think that look meant. 2 years together, 6 months engaged, wedding date set for the spring, save the dates already mailed. My Pinterest boards were full of muted greens and fairy lights and ceremony arches. My phone background was a picture of us at the beach, his arms slung around me, my head tipped back in laughter. I thought I knew what that smile on my face meant. Last weekend, my family had our big reunion. It's one of those events where 3 generations spill into one rented park shelter, kids running everywhere, somebody's playlist fighting with somebody else's speaker, folding tables groaning under crock pots and salads and pies. There were nearly 60 of us this year. It was the first time Ryan was meeting a lot of them. He spent the entire drive over rehearsing names. Okay, your Aunt Linda is the one who brings the 7-layer dip, right? He asked, drumming his fingers on his knee. Correct, I said, half amused, half touched. And your cousin? What's her name? The one who's a nurse? Lena. Right. And your grandpa likes baseball, not football. I smiled, watching him from the corner of my eye as I drove. You're going to be fine. They're going to love you. He exhaled and tried to laugh it off. I just want to make a good impression. Future son-in-law and all. The words future and son-in-law used to make my chest feel warm. The reunion was exactly the kind of chaos I'd expected. Kids screaming with joy, my uncles arguing over who cheated at cards last year, the smell of burgers and sunscreen, and 2 sweet punch hanging in the humid air. Ryan, to his credit, threw himself in. He complimented everyone's cooking, helped carry chairs, lost spectacularly at cornhole, and laughed about it. There was also an open bar. I noticed his drinks piling up faster than his plate of food, but I told myself he was just nervous. People cut loose at these things, right? Better that than him sulking in a corner. I was midway through a cornhole rematch with my brother when Lena appeared at my elbow. Haley, she said quietly, can I talk to you for a second? Something in her tone made me straighten. Lena's usually all bright sarcasm and eye rolls. This was not that. Yeah, sure. I handed the beanbags to my brother. Hold my victory. He made a face. Bold of you to assume you were winning. I followed Lena toward the parking lot, weaving through clusters of relatives. She kept glancing back like she was making sure no one followed us. You're freaking me out, I said, trying to make it a joke. Did Grandma say she's leaving the ceramic cats to me? Lena didn't smile. She stopped next to my car and took a breath. It's Ryan, she said. He's really drunk. I know, I sighed. I'll drive us home. I've only had 1 beer. That's not what I mean. She looked down at her phone, then back up at me. He was talking to me, saying some things. I didn't know what to do, so She swallowed and lifted her phone. I recorded him. My scalp prickled. Recorded him saying what? Stuff you need to hear in private, she said. Not out there, not with everyone around. My heart started pounding, a slow, heavy thud. Lena, what did he say? Just... She unlocked her phone with shaky fingers. Get in the car. Listen. Please don't freak out on me yet. Her hands were trembling. That scared me almost more than her words. We slid into the front seats of my car. The reunion noise was muffled through the windshield. Distant laughter, a kid screaming about a bee, music bleeding into the summer air. Lena tapped on the audio file, then set the phone in the cup holder between us. The recording started with the usual background chaos. People talking, clinking glasses, someone yelling for more ice. Then Ryan's voice rose out of the noise, unmistakable even with the sloppy edge of alcohol. I'm just being smart about it, he said, words slightly slurred but cruelly clear. Haley's got great income, owns her house, stable career. Why wouldn't I lock that down? I felt my stomach drop, like the car had suddenly been cut loose from gravity. My own voice wasn't on the recording, but Lena's was, hesitant and small. I don't understand what you mean. I mean, I'm marrying her for security, Ryan said. Financial security. She's nice and everything, but I learned my lesson dating broke girls in my 20s. Never again. There was a pause. In the recording, Lena sounded horrified. But do you love her? He laughed. A sound I knew intimately, suddenly unfamiliar. Love is for people who can afford to be romantic. I'm almost 30. I need to be realistic. You should honestly try it. Find a stable person. Be sweet to them and you're set. It's not complicated. That feels wrong, Lena said. It's not wrong, Ryan insisted. It's practical. Guys marry hot girls all the time, right? I'm just doing the same thing, but for financial reasons. She gets a husband who looks good and keeps things from falling apart. I get stability. Fair trade. My lungs forgot how to work. Does she know you feel this way? Lena asked. God, no, he scoffed. She thinks we're some fairy tale couple, which works for me. Makes her way easier to deal with when she thinks it's true love. The recording ended. The silence in the car was so complete I could hear my own pulse in my ears. The steering wheel blurred for a second. I realized my eyes were burning. Lena didn't say anything. She just sat there, watching me like she was waiting to see if I would break. I didn't, not outwardly. Inside, something had already cracked straight down the middle. Send it to me, I said finally. My voice sounded strange, too calm. I already did, Lena said softly. Haley, I'm so sorry. I swallowed. My throat hurt. Does anyone else know? She shook her head. No, I came straight to you. I didn't know if I should even record it, but it felt wrong. Like if I didn't, you'd never believe it if I tried to explain. You did the right thing, I said automatically, though part of me wished desperately that she hadn't. That I could go back 10 minutes and stay in my game, blissfully ignorant. I opened the car door, the heat hitting me like a wall. Are you okay? Lena asked, stepping out too. No, I said honestly, but don't say anything, not tonight. Are you sure? Yes. I closed my eyes for 1 second, breathing in the sticky summer air. Let him enjoy his last night pretending I don't know. Back at the shelter, Ryan was leaning against a picnic table, laughing with my uncle, a beer dangling from his fingers. When he saw me, his face lit up, like nothing in the world made him happier than seeing me walk toward him. I wondered how many times I'd mistaken that look for love instead of calculation. The rest of the evening felt like I was playing a role in a play I suddenly didn't believe in. I laughed at jokes. I took pictures. I helped my mom wrap leftovers. I watched Ryan charm my relatives with stories and compliments and that easy grin. When it was finally time to leave, he was swaying a little. I slid his arm over my shoulders, guided him to the car, buckled him in like he was a sleepy child. You're the best, you know that? He mumbled as I drove. I'm so lucky I found you. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. At home, I got him into bed. He grabbed my wrist clumsily before I could step away. Love you, he slurred, eyes half closed. I looked at him, at the man who had just told my cousin he was marrying me for my bank account. Yeah, I said quietly. I heard. He didn't. He was already half asleep. I pulled my hand free and walked out. I didn't sleep in our bed. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our relationship. The late-night talks, the promises, the way he'd lit up when I told him about my promotion, the way he'd said, we're going to have such a comfortable life. And I'd thought he meant comfortable emotionally, not financially. I didn't cry. Not yet. The shock held the tears back like a dam. The next morning, he shuffled into the kitchen, hair a mess, eyes bloodshot. Ugh, he groaned. I think my soul is hungover. I poured coffee into his favorite mug and slid it across the counter. Morning. He winced. Did I do anything stupid? I studied his face, this man who believed he was so clever, so subtle. You drank too much, I said, but you were manageable. He exhaled in relief, took a sip of coffee. I'm sorry. I just get nervous around big family events. I wanted them to like me. They liked you, I said, and it was almost true. We've got dinner with your parents on Friday, remember? He brightened immediately. Right, engagement celebration. My mom's been texting me nonstop about it. She's so excited to talk wedding plans with you. I smiled, and for the first time, there was nothing soft behind it. Good, I said, because before we plan anything else, there's something she really needs to hear. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. But I knew, as he sat there sipping coffee in my kitchen, talking about venues and color schemes, that Friday night would be the last time he got to pretend we were a fairy tale. It would also be the night his parents learned exactly what kind of son they'd raised. Friday came faster than I thought it would. The days between the reunion and the dinner with Ryan's parents felt like walking around with a live grenade in my pocket. I went to work, answered emails, sat through meetings, pretended to care about project timelines, while a part of my brain replayed that recording on a loop. I didn't confront him. Instead, I did the thing I'm best at. I planned. On Monday, I came home with flowers. Ryan's favorite, sunflowers, big and bright and loud. His face lit up. What's this for? Just because, I said. Thought you could use some color on your desk. He kissed me, long and grateful. You're amazing, you know that? On Tuesday, I made his favorite dinner, baked salmon, roasted potatoes, green beans with garlic. We ate on the couch, his feet in my lap, while we watched his comfort show for the 1,000th time. He kept glancing at the ring on my finger, smiling like he'd won something important. On Wednesday, he was late getting home. Sorry, he said, dropping his bag by the door. Got caught up with some guys from work. We were talking about the wedding budget. I bragged about you. Oh, I asked lightly. What did you say? That my fiancé is a badass, he said proudly. Smart, successful, that we're going to be solid. No drama. I almost laughed. No drama. Right. On Thursday, I stood in the bedroom doorway while he held up shirts. Blue or white? He asked, holding them to his chest. For Friday, I want to look respectable. Blue, I said. Makes your eyes stand out. He grinned and kissed me. What would I do without you? Probably marry someone else for their financial stability, I thought. Out loud, I just said, you'd wear the wrong shirt. Every kindness I offered that week tasted like metal in my mouth. But I wanted him relaxed, unsuspecting. I wanted him to walk into that restaurant convinced this was just a celebration. If I confronted him alone in our kitchen, it would be his word against mine. He would twist it, minimize it, cry, promise. And then when things blew up anyway, he'd tell everyone I was paranoid, dramatic, unstable. I knew because I'd watched him do that to exes in stories he told me. She was crazy, he'd said more than once. I used to believe him. Now I had proof of what he was capable of when no one was listening. I wasn't going to give him the chance to rewrite this. Friday evening, I pulled up in front of his parents' favorite restaurant downtown. It was the kind of place with white tablecloths and candles, dark wood, soft music, intimate enough that you felt important, public enough that people minded their manners. Ryan came down the stairs of his apartment building in the blue shirt I'd picked, hair styled just so, the watch I bought him for his birthday gleaming on his wrist. He opened the passenger door, leaned down, and kissed my cheek. You look incredible, he said. My mom's going to cry when she sees you. Let's not make her cry yet, I said, smiling. The drive was full of chatter. Updates about his work week. A story about his coworker's disastrous bachelor party planning. I nodded in the right places, made the right noises. My phone sat in the cup holder, black screen hiding the file that had become my quiet weapon. His parents, Mark and Diane, were already seated when we arrived. Diane stood up when she saw us, arms outstretched. Oh, look at you two, she said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like expensive perfume and familiarity. Our bride and groom. Mark shook Ryan's hand, then mine. Congratulations again, he said. We've been bragging about you all week, Haley. That promotion, the house. You're quite the catch. I felt my jaw clench just for a second. Quite the catch. Thank you, I said. You raised a pretty good one yourself. We sat. Napkins unfolded, menus opened. The waiter came, took drink orders. Ryan ordered a cocktail. I asked for water. I wanted my head clear. Big night, Diane said, smiling at us over the rim of her wine glass. We have so much to talk about. Venue options, guest lists. Have you two thought more about whether you want a band or a DJ? Ryan launched into an animated explanation of why a DJ was more flexible, one hand resting possessively over mine on the table. I listened, nodding occasionally, the warmth of his palm on my skin feeling foreign. Mark asked about my job, about my new responsibilities. Diane asked about my family, about the reunion last weekend. How did it go? She asked. Did Ryan survive the test? He did, I said. Everyone liked him. I didn't look at Ryan when I said it. I couldn't. I might have given myself away. We ordered appetizers. There was laughter, stories, the kind of effortless back and forth that comes when you've known people for years. It would have been a perfect evening, if not for the audio file sitting in my messages like a ticking bomb. When the waiter cleared the entree plates and asked about dessert, Diane clasped her hands together. I feel like I'm going to cry, she said again. This is all starting to feel so real. It is real, Ryan said, squeezing my hand. We're getting married, right, babe? I looked at him, really looked, at the easy confidence in his eyes, the assumption that I was his, that my life, my house, my future were all locked in. Yes, I said, it is real, which is why there's something we all need to hear before we go any further. The mood shifted like a temperature drop. What do you mean? Ryan asked, his smile faltering. My heart hammered against my ribs. My hands were steady as I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I brought something from the reunion, I said. Diane tilted her head. Pictures? Not exactly. I set the phone on the table, screen facing up. My thumb hovered over the file for a split second, long enough for Ryan's eyes to flick down and read the name of the audio. His face went white. Haley, he said sharply, don't. I tapped play. The restaurant noise faded into the background as a different kind of chatter filled the air. The recorded hum of my family reunion. Glasses clinking, people laughing. And then, clear as if he were sitting at our table, Ryan's voice spilled out. I'm just being smart about it, you know. Haley's got great income, owns her house, stable career. Why wouldn't I lock that down? Diane's smile collapsed. Mark's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Ryan lunged for the phone. I moved my hand calmly, pulling it just out of reach without breaking eye contact. Let it finish, I said. Turn it off, he hissed. Haley, I swear to God. I repeated, louder this time. Let it finish. Heads turned at nearby tables. The waiter paused mid-step, eyes flicking between us. On the recording, Lena's voice sounded small. I don't understand what you mean. I mean, I'm marrying her for security. Financial security, Ryan's recorded self said. She's nice and everything, but I learned my lesson dating broke girls in my 20s. Never again. Ryan? Diane whispered. The recording went on. Love is for people who can afford to be romantic. I'm almost 30. I need to be realistic. You should honestly try it. Find a stable person. Be sweet to them, and you're set. It's not complicated. Diane made a choking sound. Mark's jaw tightened so sharply I could see the muscle twitch. Ryan's real voice cut in over his recorded one. I was drunk. It was a joke, okay? Everyone says stupid stuff when they're drunk. On the audio, Lena asked, Does she know you feel this way? God, no, Ryan laughed. She thinks we're some fairy tale couple, which works for me. Makes her way easier to deal with when she thinks it's true love. The recording clicked off. Silence crashed over the table, thick and suffocating. Tell me that's not you, Mark said finally, his voice hushed but deadly. Ryan's breathing was shallow. Dad, I was hammered. I didn't mean it like that. I was trying to... Is it you? Mark's eyes were fixed on his son. Ryan opened his mouth, closed it. Yes, but... Diane set her napkin down with shaking hands. How could you? She whispered. How could you talk about Haley like that? It's not what it sounds like, he insisted, desperation creeping into his tone. I was being an idiot. I don't actually... It's exactly what it sounds like, I said, my voice calm in a way that scared even me. Recorded at my family reunion. No edits, no tricks, just you, explaining why it makes sense to marry me. His head snapped toward me. So your cousin was spying on me? My cousin was listening to you brag about using me, I said. She hit record because she didn't know how else to prove it. Diane's eyes filled with tears. You said you loved her. I do, Ryan protested. I do love you, Haley. I was just talking crap, trying to sound, I don't know, cool, practical. Cool? I repeated. You described our relationship like a transaction, Ryan. You called me stable, easy to manage, a good investment. You called love a luxury. He leaned toward me, his voice dropping. Can we please talk about this privately? Please, don't do this here. I met his gaze and felt something inside me harden. No, your parents deserve to know what kind of marriage you were planning. Mark pushed his chair back, the sound sharp in the quiet restaurant. We raised you better than this. Ryan looked stunned. Dad, come on. We taught you about honesty, Mark went on, about not using people for what they can provide. This, he gestured toward the phone, toward me, is the opposite of that. Diane wiped her eyes. You said she was easy to deal with when she believed it was true love, she said, her voice breaking. Is that what you do? Manipulate people until they're convenient? Ryan's facade cracked then. Panic flooded in. Mom, no, I'm not. Haley, tell them we're good. Tell them you know I didn't mean it. I stared at him. The engagement is off, I said quietly. I'll have your stuff packed by Sunday. You can have your dad pick it up. His chair scraped violently as he stood. You're ending 2 years over one stupid drunk conversation? It wasn't stupid, I said. It was honest. That's why it hurts. People were full on staring now. The waiter hovered at a safe distance, eyes wide. Please, Ryan said, reaching for my hand. Please don't do this. We can fix it. Therapy, whatever you want. I messed up, okay? I messed up, but I love you. You love my income, I said. My house, my stability. You said it yourself. I'm just easier to handle when I believe it's some fairy tale. His face crumpled. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said, is building a life with someone who secretly sees you as a financial plan. Mark stood as well. We're leaving, he said to Ryan. You're coming with us. Ryan shook his head. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not letting her just walk away like this. Yes, Mark said firmly. You are, before you make this worse. He turned to me, his expression softening. Haley, we're so sorry. We had no idea. I nodded. I know. I put enough cash on the table to cover the bill and a generous tip. The waiter swooped in gratefully. Ryan followed me out to the parking lot, his parents trailing behind. Haley, wait, he called. Please. I stopped near my car. The night air was cool, the restaurant's lights casting long shadows across the asphalt. He reached me first, grabbing my arm. Please don't throw away everything we have over this. You know me. You know I'm not. I know exactly who you are now, I said, pulling my arm free. That's the problem. You're blowing this out of proportion, he said, voice cracking. People say messed up stuff when they're drunk. Sure, I said, but they don't invent entire strategies. You laid it all out, Ryan. My income, my house, your never dating broke girls again rule. Love being a luxury. That wasn't a slip. That was a reveal. Tears spilled over his lashes. I do care about you. Care, not love, I said. You were very clear about that. That's not what I meant, he choked. Maybe not in those exact words, I said, but it's what you showed me. Mark caught up to us, placing a firm hand on Ryan's shoulder. That's enough. Ryan tried to shake him off. Dad! Let her go, Mark said. You've done enough damage. Diane stood a little behind them, eyes red, looking at her son like she didn't recognize him. Ryan looked at me one more time, desperate. Haley, please. I opened my car door. Goodbye, Ryan. I got in and shut the door before he could say anything else. I didn't drive home right away. I drove without thinking, through lit streets and dark side roads, past people laughing on patios and couples holding hands on sidewalks. The recording still sat in my messages, but I didn't need to replay it. His words were etched into my memory like a scar. Eventually, my autopilot took me to my brother's apartment complex. He opened the door in sweatpants, a beer in his hand, eyes widening when he saw my face. Oh no, he said, stepping aside. What happened? I walked in and sat on his couch, my body suddenly heavy. Got anything stronger than that beer? He handed it to me without arguing. Tell me everything. So I did. I played him the recording. I told him about the dinner, about Ryan's parents, about the parking lot. I watched my brother's expression darken with every sentence. Holy hell, he said when the recording finished. You played that at dinner with his parents? They deserve to know, I said. I wasn't going to let him spin it into some story where I'm unstable and he's the victim. My brother sat back, shaking his head. Damn, that's brutal. But honestly, legendary. He couldn't lie his way out of that if he tried. I stared at the condensation sliding down the beer bottle. I don't feel legendary, I said. I just feel hollow. You will feel better, he said quietly. Not tonight, but you will. You dodged something huge, Hales. I leaned my head back against the couch and closed my eyes. The wedding would have been in a few months. Instead, I was sitting in my brother's apartment, holding a beer in one hand and proof of betrayal in the other. Somehow, that felt like the better outcome. The next morning, sunlight crept through my blinds like it was trying to apologize for existing. I wasn't ready for light, or sound, or consciousness, really. But life didn't care. My phone buzzed against the nightstand, a soft vibration that felt like someone hammering on my skull. I didn't check it. I already knew who it was. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, replaying last night in fragments, the restaurant lights reflecting in Diane's glassy eyes, Mark's voice hard as steel, Ryan's panic, his hand clutching at me in the parking lot like I was the edge of a cliff he was falling from. And then the silence after I drove away. That silence was the part echoing the loudest. By mid-morning, I forced myself out of bed. Coffee, shower, hair tied back, clothes worn without a thought. The house felt unfamiliar, like a place I'd rented temporarily, rather than a home I had lived in for years. I walked into the spare bedroom, the room where Ryan kept most of his things, the room that had been slowly morphing into his territory, drawer by drawer, shelf by shelf. Time to take it back. I grabbed boxes from the garage, the cheap cardboard kind that sag a little in the middle. One by one, I pulled out his things, shirts, cologne, his novelty socks he thought were hilarious, the stupid set of resistance bands he never used, his gaming headset, the stack of books he swore he would read someday. Each item felt heavier than it should have, not because of the weight, but because of what it represented. Tiny parts of a future I thought we were building, a future I thought he valued the same way. 3 boxes in, my phone buzzed again. I ignored it and kept packing. By the 5th buzz, I couldn't help myself. I checked the screen. Ryan, 47 messages. The preview of the most recent one read, "Please, please, please pick up. I'm losing my mind. I exhaled slowly, set the phone face down, and kept working. The message log was a roller coaster even without opening it. I could see the tone shifts just from the first lines. Haley, baby, please talk to me. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. 2 years means nothing to you? You humiliated me in public. You're cruel. Please, I love you. Please don't do this. My parents won't even look at me. This is your fault. Classic cycle. Apology, desperation, anger, blame, apology, again. I didn't respond. Around noon, a knock sounded at my door. I froze. Not ready for him. Not today. Not ever. Maybe. I checked the peephole. It wasn't Ryan. It was Mark. I opened the door, heart tightening at the sight of him. He looked older than he had last night, exhausted in the way only a parent can be when they're reckoning with who their child really is. Haley, he said softly, I hope this isn't a bad time. Not at all. Come in. He shook his head. No need. I'm just here for his things. I nodded and gestured to the boxes stacked by the entryway. They're all there. If I find anything else, I'll let you know. He lifted the first box, then paused. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize, I said. You didn't say those things. No, he said quietly, but I raised the person who did. That hit harder than anything Ryan had said. I know this isn't easy for you either, I told him. He gave a weary, bitter smile. We thought we did everything right. Thought we raised him to be honest, to value people for who they are. But somewhere along the line, he started seeing relationships as transactions, assets, safety nets. He looked down, jaw tight. I don't recognize that boy anymore. I swallowed. People hide who they are, sometimes even from themselves. Mark nodded slowly. What you did last night, making him face what he said, it was harsh, brutal even. He looked up, meeting my eyes. But it was the right thing. He needed that reality check, needed to see there are consequences to treating someone like that. His voice broke, just barely. You didn't deserve any of it. That was the moment I felt tears sting my eyes for the first time. Not because of Ryan, but because someone finally said what I hadn't let myself admit. Thank you, I whispered. He loaded the last box into his truck, closed the tailgate, and stood there for a moment like he didn't know what to do next. If you ever need anything, he said, even if it's just someone to talk to, you have our number. I nodded. Take care of yourself and Diane. He nodded once more, then drove away. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. I turned back inside. There was still one thing left to do. The wedding folder, our budget, vendor notes, to-do lists, venue confirmations, sat on my dining table like a mocking reminder. Cancel everything. It took hours. Calling the venue, explaining the situation, hearing the carefully sympathetic voices, losing the deposit, calling the photographer, the caterer, the florist, the DJ, who cheerfully asked if I'd like to reschedule for a different date. I'd like to cancel, I told each of them. There was always a pause, always the same soft line. I'm so sorry to hear that. Breakups are hard. You're doing the right thing. By the time the last cancellation was done, my head felt heavy and my throat raw. Not from talking, from holding everything in. My phone lit up again. More calls from Ryan, more texts. I didn't need to read them to know the pattern had shifted again. Apology, pleading, anger, guilt, pleading again. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went to make tea. Just as I lifted the mug to the counter, the screen lit again with a new name. Diane Blake. My stomach twisted. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Her voice came through small and trembling. Haley, hi. I hope it's okay that I called. Of course. There was a shaky inhale on the other end. I just wanted to say, I'm so sorry about everything. I can't believe he said those things, that he thought like that he talked about you that way. Her voice cracked, and something inside me softened and broke at the same time. You don't have to apologize, I said. Really? I do, she insisted, voice aching. I feel like we failed you, failed him, failed everyone. I can't stop thinking about the way you looked at that table. I could see your heart breaking in real time. I closed my eyes. I'm okay, I said. It wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't a lie either. I'll be okay. You're stronger than you know, she said quietly, and you deserve someone who sees you as a partner, not as a plan. A silence stretched between us, filled with grief on both ends. We're devastated, Diane whispered, but we're also grateful. Grateful you found out before the wedding, before there were children, before things got harder to undo. I know, I said. I'm grateful too, in a way. Please don't disappear on us, she said suddenly. I mean, I understand if you need space, but you're not the one who did anything wrong, and I don't want you to feel like you lost us too. My throat tightened. I appreciate that, I said, truly. He's not taking it well, she added, voice soft but firm. But that's his responsibility, not yours. I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. Thank you for calling. Take care of yourself, sweetheart, she whispered. Please. When the call ended, the house felt still again. But the heaviness inside me, it had shifted. Just a little. Enough to breathe. I sat at the table with my cooling tea and finally let my eyes close. The wedding was gone. The future was gone. The person I thought I knew was gone. All that was left was me. And for the first time in 2 years, I realized that might actually be enough. The constant buzzing started again on Sunday, my phone vibrating across the kitchen counter like it was trying to crawl its way back into my life. I didn't need to check the screen. I knew who it was. Ryan had been messaging nonstop since the night at the restaurant. I'd stopped opening the text somewhere around message 60. His words blended together into a familiar pattern. Apology, desperation, anger, guilt, flattery, self-pity, and then back around again. But this time, there was a new tone to the buzzing, a sharper, more frantic rhythm. I finally glanced at the notifications. Ryan, 18 missed calls. Ryan, I'm outside. Please talk to me. Haley, please. I need to see you. I can explain everything. Please come out. Please, please. My stomach nodded. The last thing I wanted was a confrontation. Not today. Not ever. Maybe. But he wasn't going to leave, and I wasn't going to let him bang on my door until the neighbors got involved. I walked to the front window and lifted the blinds just enough to see outside. He was standing on the walkway, hair uncombed, eyes swollen, wearing the same clothes from yesterday. He looked like he hadn't slept, like he'd been pacing for hours. He stared at my front door with a look I'd seen before, when he wanted something badly and was calculating the best way to get it. I opened the door just barely, stepping into the frame so he couldn't push past me. Haley, he breathed, like my name was a prayer. Thank God. What are you doing here, Ryan? We need to talk. No, I said calmly. We don't. His face crumpled. You can't just shut me out. You can't just throw everything away over one stupid... You're right, I cut in. I'm not throwing everything away because of one stupid anything. I'm ending this because you told someone else the truth about how you see me, and about why you wanted to marry me. I was drunk, he insisted, wiping his face with the back of his hand. I didn't mean any of that. I was trying to impress your cousin, that's all. It was bravado. Posturing. I was trying to be funny. You didn't sound funny, I said. You sounded honest. He stepped closer, voice cracking. Haley, you know I love you. Do I? Yes, of course you do. You feel it. You've always felt... I shook my head. You were very specific that what you wanted was stability, a safe life, someone who made things easy. You said love was optional. That caring was good enough. That's not what I meant, he said desperately. I was exaggerating. No. My voice was soft but steady. You were finally telling the truth. A long silence stretched between us. His breathing hitched. So what? This is it? I'm just the villain now? The gold digger fiancé? You're not even going to give me a chance to fix it? You can't fix what you never meant sincerely in the first place, I said. You can't fix that you wanted a secure life more than a real relationship. I did want a real relationship, he said, voice rising. I do love you, I do. I just thought you'd hit the jackpot, I said bluntly. My house, my salary, my savings, my stability. Your words, Ryan, not mine. He blinked, caught off guard. The truth was a mirror he'd spent years avoiding. Haley, his voice lowered, don't do this. Please. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. And I wish I could say the same, I said, but I can't. Not anymore. He stared at me as if I'd slapped him. Silence clung to the air. Finally, he looked toward the boxes stacked beside the door. His clothes, shoes, electronics, toiletries, everything that had trickled into my home over 2 years. Is that everything? Yes, I said. Your dad already took the first load. You can take the rest now, or he can. It's your call. He swallowed hard. I'll take it. I stepped aside and let him pass. He lifted the first box, jaw tight, shoulders shaking. By the second trip, he was crying again. Soft, quiet sobs he kept turning his face away from me to hide. I didn't help him carry anything. When he came back for the last box, he paused at the doorway. Haley, he said hoarsely, I don't know how to be without you. You'll figure it out, I said gently, just like I will. He nodded slowly, defeated. Then, for the first time since I'd met him, he looked small, like a child realizing the world wasn't what he thought. He walked away without another word. When his car pulled out of the driveway, something inside my chest finally loosened. A deep trembling exhale left me. The house was quiet. Still, mine again. I locked the door. Almost immediately, my phone buzzed with a new notification. Unknown number. We need to talk. I frowned and opened it. Unknown number. This is Lauren, Ryan's friend. He's devastated. What you did was cruel. He said you ambushed him, played a private conversation in public. You need to talk to him. He deserves that. I blocked the number. 30 seconds later, another message. Unknown number. Hi, Haley. This is Jenna from Ryan's office. He's falling apart. Please don't destroy him over one mistake. Blocked. A third. Unknown number. I'm his yoga instructor. He is inconsolable. He told us you misunderstood everything. You owe him. Blocked. One by one, the calls and texts came. Friends, coworkers, acquaintances, all repeating the same talking points like someone had given them a script. None of them asked for the truth. None of them asked to hear the recording. And none of them would have believed it even if they did. I blocked every number. I blocked Ryan last. Finally, the buzzing stopped. The silence that followed wasn't empty this time. It was relief. I went to the bathroom, washed my face, looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were tired, my skin blotchy, my shoulders slumped. But for the first time in days, I could breathe. The next morning, my mother called. I answered on the second ring. Well, she said, in the voice she uses when she's trying not to sound smug, your aunt told me what happened. I sighed. Of course she did. She also told me, Mom went on, that you handled it with more dignity than most people your age could have managed. But I always said you were strong. That caught me off guard. Thanks, Mom. You know, she added lightly, your father and I never quite warmed to that boy. Something about him always felt rehearsed, like he was playing the part of a good partner instead of actually being one. I shook my head. Would have been nice to know that before I got engaged. Would you have listened? I opened my mouth, closed it. Exactly, she said gently. You had to see it for yourself. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then she continued, quieter now. You're a good woman, Haley, and you deserve someone who wants you, not your resume. My throat tightened. Thanks, Mom. Now go rest, she ordered, and don't you dare let this make you feel small. When the call ended, the house felt different. Lighter, not fixed, not healed, but no longer breaking. I didn't know what my future looked like now, only that it would be mine and mine alone. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like something worth holding on to. Monday morning arrived with the subtle dread of a dentist appointment you forgot to cancel. I woke up earlier than usual, not because I was well rested, but because my body seemed convinced that chaos would follow me into the office. And to be fair, it wasn't wrong. I'd barely walked into the building when the receptionist called out, Haley, there's someone here to see you. The way she said it, tight smile, eyes flicking toward the lobby, told me everything. Ryan. Of course he was. He stood just inside the glass doors, posture tense, shoulders drawn up like he was trying to keep himself from collapsing. His clothes were wrinkled, his face pale except for the dark circles beneath his eyes. He looked like a man who'd been living inside his own panic for days. When he saw me, he took a step forward. Please, he said, I just need 5 minutes. I gripped the strap of my bag. This is not the place, Ryan. I didn't know what else to do, he said, voice cracking. You block me everywhere. You won't answer. I'm losing my mind. That's not my responsibility. His jaw tightened. So you're just done? After everything? After 2 years? In case you forgot, I said quietly, you're the one who admitted you were marrying me because you liked my house and my income. He shook his head violently. No, that's not... Haley, please, you know I don't think like that. I said things I didn't mean. I was drunk. I exhaled sharply. You weren't improvising, Ryan. You outlined a strategy. Stability, financial security, being easy to handle if you made me think it was love. That's not a drunken slip. That's who you are. His eyes glistened with tears he didn't bother to hide. Please don't do this here, he begged. People are staring. They were. 3 coworkers walked past us slowly, pretending not to listen. I gestured toward a conference room. Fine, 5 minutes. We stepped inside. I shut the door behind us. He sat heavily, elbows on his knees, hands in his hair, like he might pull it out. I didn't mean it, he said again, softer. I swear to God, Haley, I don't think of you like that. I love you. I leaned against the table across from him. No, you love the life you could have with me. That's not fair, he snapped. You're right, I said. Fair would have been you telling me the truth from the start. He looked up at me. desperation written across every line of his face. I do love you. I didn't just use you. You know me. I shook my head. I thought I did. He reached out as if to take my hand. I stepped back. You can't do this, he whispered. You can't just end us because of one mistake. I straightened. This wasn't one mistake. This was who you were when your guard was down. He stared at me, breathing ragged. Okay, he finally said. Fine. I was attracted to your stability. Is that a crime? People are attracted to all kinds of things. Being attracted to stability isn't a crime, I said. Marrying someone primarily for their money while pretending it's love is manipulation. I do love you, he shouted. Someone in the hallway paused outside the door. I kept my voice steady. You love the stability you think I provide. You love the benefits. You love the life. You don't love me. And that's the part I can't unlearn. He stared at me like I'd punched him in the chest. Your 5 minutes are up, I said quietly. He stood slowly, like the gravity in the room had doubled. If you walk away, that's it? We're done? Yes. He inhaled sharply, nodded once, then walked out, shoulders trembling. I waited until the door closed before I let myself sag against the table. Reception buzzed a moment later. Hi, Haley, she whispered. Do you want us to make sure he doesn't come up again? Yes, I said, please. On it. I hung up, steadied myself, and went to my desk. By lunchtime, the physical letters started. Actual envelopes. Handwritten. 1 arrived at the office. 3 arrived at my house that evening. Then 3 more the next day. Confessions, apologies, long rambling paragraphs about how he couldn't sleep or eat or think. The first letter I read through carefully. The second letter I skimmed. The third letter I tore in half and threw away. After that, I stopped opening them completely. Then came the legal threat. A polite letter from Ryan's lawyer listing expenses Ryan incurred over the course of the engagement, including dress alterations, gas money, labor. Ryan contributed while assembling furniture. Time spent moving his belongings into my home, emotional investment lost due to sudden breakup. My lawyer laughed out loud when she read it. She wrote back a sharp, professional response attaching a transcript of the recording. Her final sentence read, advise your client to withdraw these claims before he embarrasses himself further. We never heard from them again. Then, a week later, I got another text from Diane. Diane, can we meet for coffee? Just you and me? If it's too soon, I understand. I stared at the message for a long minute before replying. Me, okay. We met at a cafe near her neighborhood. When I walked in, she already looked drained. Eyes shadowed, shoulders slumped, hands wrapped around her mug like she needed its warmth to stay steady. Her lips trembled into a weak smile when she saw me. Thank you for coming, she said. Of course. She took a deep, shaky breath. I wanted to apologize, again. You don't need to. I do, she insisted softly. Because we should have seen this coming. We should have recognized certain patterns in how Ryan approached relationships. He's always been practical, too practical. He talked about his friends' marriages in terms of what each person offered or brought to the table. She paused, pain crossing her face. I thought it was just immaturity. I gently shook my head. This isn't on you. He's not doing well, she went on. But that's his doing. He's paying the price for choices he made, choices he tried to hide. Her voice cracked. I didn't raise him to be that man. Emotion pulled at my throat. I'm sorry you're going through this too. She nodded, eyes brightening with tears. It kills me that he hurt you. But I'm relieved, truly relieved that you found out before the wedding, before you were legally tied to him, before things got more complicated. I breathed slowly, grounding myself. Me too. She reached out, covered my hand with hers. Haley, I want you to know something. We don't blame you. We don't resent you. We're not angry at you. We're horrified at him. I swallowed against a knot in my throat. Thank you. And I hope, she whispered, voice trembling, that someday you find someone who actually deserves you. It wasn't until I was walking back to my car that I realized something important. The anger I'd been carrying since that night, it wasn't sharp anymore. It had dulled into something softer, quieter. Not forgiveness, but release. That night, I sat on my couch, legs tucked beneath me, a blanket around my shoulders, and breathed for the first time without feeling like something was crushing my lungs. I wasn't okay. Not yet, but I wasn't drowning anymore. And that was enough. A month passed before anything in my life felt remotely normal again. Not happy, not healed, just no longer hollow. I went to work, sent emails, ate dinner, slept, woke up, repeated the cycle. Some days were easier than others. Some days, a memory of him would hit me sideways. His laugh, his hand on my back when we crossed streets, the way he used to steal my fries even when he said he wasn't hungry. But then I remembered the recording, and the grief washed clean again. It became a strange kind of background noise, like the hum of the refrigerator, always present, not always noticed. My brother decided I'd had enough time to brood. He showed up one Saturday morning holding a bag of breakfast sandwiches, the smell of bacon and egg filling my apartment. "You," he said, pointing at me dramatically, "are coming out with us tonight." "I'm not ready to date," I said, immediately putting up a hand. "Who said anything about dating?" He tossed me a sandwich. "It's board games at Chris's place. Low stakes. Unless you lose, then the humiliation lasts forever." I rolled my eyes. "I might come." He grinned. "Progress." The truth was, I did need something. Anything. To remind me that life didn't end with Ryan, that I didn't end with Ryan. So that night I went. It was awkward at first, stepping back into a world that felt bigger and noisier than the quiet I'd built to survive. But after a while, the laughter started to sound normal again. People joked, teased me, asked how I'd been, not because they wanted gossip, not because they had an agenda, but because they cared. And somewhere in that cozy apartment, between rounds of a card game I lost spectacularly, I realized I was finally exhaling without thinking about it. One of the people at the gathering was a guy named Oliver, a teacher. Soft-spoken, warm, with the kind of smile that made people relax around him naturally. He didn't flirt, didn't pry, didn't ask me anything personal. He just made space for me to exist comfortably. And that, somehow, felt better than any grand romantic gesture ever could. Over the next couple of weeks, I saw him again, always in group settings, always low pressure. We ended up talking more and more. He liked hiking, but only the lazy, scenic trails. He made terrible puns. He had a cat named Maple, who apparently behaved like a tiny landlord. Then one night, after everyone else had left, we ended up outside together, leaning against separate cars in the cool air. He took a breath, hesitated. "I know you're not looking for anything serious," he said carefully, eyes kind. "I just like talking to you, and I'd like to keep doing that, whenever you're ready, in whatever form you're ready for." No assumptions, no pressure, no claims to my future. I found myself smiling. "I think I'd like that," I admitted. We didn't hug or touch. We just exchanged numbers and went home. And for the first time since everything shattered, I felt something spark inside me. Something small, something gentle, something hopeful. Months passed. Not all at once, not dramatically, just day by day with slow, steady improvement. Work got easier, sleep got better, the tightness in my chest loosened. Oliver and I texted, talked, eventually got coffee, then dinner, then another dinner. We moved slowly, intentionally. It felt healthy in a way I hadn't realized I'd been missing. No over-the-top declarations, no sweeping promises, just two people getting to know each other without hidden agendas. One evening, he paid for dinner, then frowned when I reached for my wallet. "That wasn't a date," he said quickly, "just friends hanging out. But if it was a date, we'd take turns paying because we're both adults and neither of us is an investment vehicle." I burst out laughing. Genuinely, loudly, maybe a little hysterically. He blinked at me. "Too soon?" "No," I said, wiping a tear of laughter from my eye. Perfect timing. And then, 3 months after our breakup, Ryan showed up again. I came home late from work, juggling groceries and keys, when I saw him sitting on my front steps. My chest tightened, not in longing, not in grief, just heaviness. He stood when he saw me, hands in his pockets. He looked better, healthier, put together. "Before you close the door," he said quietly, "I'm not here to beg, or argue, or try to get back together." I didn't open the door fully, just held it halfway. "Then why are you here?" He took a breath. "To apologize, for real, this time." I didn't move, didn't speak. He continued, voice steadier than I expected. "The things I said at your family reunion, they weren't just drunk talk. They were the worst parts of how I saw relationships. I'd convinced myself I was being practical, mature, realistic, but the truth is, I was selfish. I used you. And I told myself it wasn't wrong because you seemed happy." He swallowed hard. "You deserved honesty, and love, and someone who didn't see your accomplishments as a safety net. I didn't give you that. I'm sorry." I searched his face. He wasn't performing this time. He wasn't pleading. He wasn't spinning a narrative. He was acknowledging it. And strangely, I felt no heat of anger, no satisfaction, just an odd, quiet emptiness, filled with distance and closure. Thank you, I said softly. I appreciate you saying that. He nodded, eyes dropping. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I just didn't want this to be the last version of me you ever knew. I nodded once. Take care, Ryan. He stepped back, gave a small, sad smile, and walked away. And just like that, he was gone. For good. A few days later, my brother asked if I wanted to take a road trip with him, something we hadn't done since we were teenagers. No destination, just open highways, bad playlists, and gas station snacks. Why not? I said. We drove for hours, windows down, wind in our hair, the kind of laughter that only comes when you realize you survived something you thought would break you. Somewhere between state lines, he asked, Do you think you'll tell Oliver the whole story? Eventually, I said, but only when it's just something that happened, not something I'm still carrying. He nodded. Makes sense. The sky was streaked with gold and lavender as the sun dipped low, and I realized something. For the first time in nearly a year, my life felt like it belonged to me again. No hidden agendas, no recordings, no manipulation disguised as affection, no pretending. Just honesty, clarity, possibility. Not a fairy tale, a beginning, a real one.